Not completely. You're still moving. Your feet are still making contact with the road and leaving it and making contact again. The mechanical repetition that your body has been executing since before dawn, that it could execute in its sleep because it has done it 10,000 times. The motion is still happening. But the thing that was behind the motion, the reserve that the body draws on to keep the motion happening when the motion has become difficult, that reserve is no longer where it was this morning. You have been drawing on it for hours. You have been drawing on it since the 4th mile. When the road began to climb and the pack shifted and the particular muscle group in your lower back that had been managing the load decided it had a complaint. Since the 8th mile, when the blister that had been forming on your left heel since yesterday's march finished forming. Since the 12th mile, when you stopped being able to feel your feet in the specific way that means the feet have moved past their capacity to report and are now simply enduring. The column is still moving at the same pace it has been moving since dawn. You're not moving at that pace anymore. The gap between you and the man in front of you, the gap that is supposed to be arm's length, that the formation requires to be arm's length, that the optio behind you is watching to be arm's length, that gap is opening. And here is the thing Rome built its punishment system to address. It did not matter why the gap was opening. The Roman military made no distinction between a soldier who could not keep the pace and a soldier who would not keep the pace. Both were the same failure. Both received the same response. The vine staff of the centurion was not a tool that asked questions about the reason for the failure before it arrived. It simply arrived. The march was 20 miles, sometimes more. Loaded, the full kit, the pack Rome called the sarcina, which contained the soldiers' share of the tent, cooking equipment, rations, stakes for the camp palisade, tools for the camp ditches, personal equipment. 60 pounds, sometimes more when the supply train was light and the soldiers carried additional supplies. Roman soldiers marched at a pace of around 20 miles per day under normal conditions. On forced marches, which were not unusual, which happened whenever tactical circumstances required the army to cover ground faster than the standard schedule, they marched more. Caesar's legions covered extraordinary distances, 30 miles. More in the forced marches that had become part of his tactical reputation, the ability to appear somewhere the enemy had not expected him to be, because his soldiers had marched through the night, through the rain, through terrain that had convinced the enemy the route was not viable. Your body was not consulted about whether the route was viable. Your body received the order and began walking and continued walking until the order changed or the body stopped. The body stopping first was the problem. When a soldier fell out of the column, fell behind the pace, broke from the formation, sat down by the side of the road, the response was immediate, and it was not sympathetic. The centurion's vine staff was the minor version. The flagrum was the serious version. The whip with leather strands fitted with metal hooks that caught the skin as they struck and tore it as they left, that made the ordinary flogging of a garrison punishment feel different in kind from the specific instrument Rome used for soldiers who had failed in a way that put the column at risk. Because a column with gaps was a column that could be ambushed. A column with gaps was a column that arrived at its objective depleted and spread across miles of road instead of concentrated and functional. A soldier who fell out of the march was not just a man in distress, he was a tactical problem. Rome had been very clear about the difference between a tactical problem and a personal problem. Personal problems were the soldier's business. Tactical problems were Rome's business, and Rome's business was addressed with the instruments Rome had developed for the purpose. Your body's inability to maintain the pace was a tactical problem. The flagrum's metal hooks were designed to do something specific that the vine staff could not do. The vine staff was pain. It was the centurion's immediate physical expression of authority. Sharp, sudden, impossible to ignore, over quickly. It corrected behavior in the moment. It was the instrument of daily management. The flagrum was not management. The flagrum was punishment in the formal sense. The result of a judgment that what had happened was serious enough to require something that left a mark. The leather strands struck and the hooks caught, and the tearing as they left the skin was a different kind of pain from the vine staff, a pain with duration and consequence, a pain that continued after the instrument had been put away, that was present the following morning when the pack went back on and the march resumed. And resumed on top of the wounds. This is the part of Roman military punishment that the tactical logic cannot fully account for. The flogging that addressed the failure to march was applied to the body that would need to march tomorrow, the man who had fallen out of the column on Tuesday, whose legs had given him the specific involuntary signal that 20 miles under 60 pounds had exceeded what they could maintain, was flogged for falling out, and then expected to be back in the column on Wednesday. With the wounds from the flogging under the armor, with the back that had flagged on Tuesday under the pack that had flagged it, with the feet that had gone past reporting, the left heel with the blister that had not had 48 hours to heal, that was going back into the sandal for another 20 miles. Rome had decided that the response to a body that could not keep the pace was to damage the body further and then require it to keep the pace. The logic was not compassionate. The logic was not designed to be compassionate. The logic was that the fear of the flagrum had to be greater than the pain of the march. That a soldier who knew what falling out cost would find reserves he did not know he had, would draw on something below the level of the ordinary reserve, would keep moving when the moving had become what it became. And the logic was correct. Men who had been flogged for falling out marched the following day. Not always well, not always at full pace, but they marched because the alternative had been established clearly and physically and was still present in the skin under the armor. Rome had arranged things so that stopping was more dangerous than continuing. This was the entire design. The men who were left behind were a different category from the men who were flogged back into the column. Some soldiers fell out and could not be flogged back in. The body that had stopped past the point where pain could restart it, past heat exhaustion into something the Roman medical vocabulary described as a kind of collapse that the vine staff and the flagrum had no leverage on. The man on the side of the road was not choosing to be on the side of the road in any sense that punishment could address. The column kept moving. This was not cruelty in the individual sense. The column kept moving because columns kept moving, because stopping a marching army to attend to its casualties was a tactical decision that commanders made under specific conditions and declined to make under others, and a soldier who had fallen out from exhaustion on a non-combat march in friendly territory was not a condition that stopped the column. The supply wagons at the rear were supposed to collect the fallen. Sometimes they did. The capsarios, the basic medical attendant who moved with the column, sometimes dropped back for men who were clearly in serious distress rather than simply slow. But the column did not stop. The column had an objective and a schedule, and the calculation of how many men arrived at the objective functional was made at the level of the march, not at the level of the individual man by the road. You had a name, you had a service record, you had a tent and a contubernum and 8 men who had been eating beside you for years. The column had an objective. These were not the same calculation. The men who fell out in the Germanic forests during the campaigns of the 1st century AD faced something worse than the flagrum. The forests were not friendly territory. The road, such as it was, because Roman roads in Germania were often improvised, cut through timber rather than properly constructed, was not a road you fell out beside and waited on for the supply wagons. The supply wagons were also in the forest. The enemy was also in the forest, and the enemy's relationship to isolated Roman soldiers was not a relationship that included leaving them by the road. Soldiers who fell out in hostile territory were not left. They were carried, or they were pulled forward by the men behind them, or they were told in terms that the flagrum had established as credible exactly what would happen if they did not get up and keep moving. Some of them got up and kept moving. The body, presented with a sufficiently urgent alternative to its own failure, found the movement it had reported was no longer available. Some of them did not get up. and the column made its calculation and kept moving, and what happened to the men who remained was the calculation the enemy made, which was not a calculation Rome could influence from inside a moving column. The forests kept some of them. The records, when they exist at all, record them as lost. Not wounded, not killed in action. Lost. The administrative word for a man who went into the forest as part of a column and did not emerge from it as part of the accounting. Lost. As if the forest had simply misplaced them. Rome built you for the march. That is not an exaggeration. The training that had produced you, the miles and the weight and the daily drill and the years of it, had taken whatever you were at 17 and remade it into something that could do what the march required. And then it required more than that. Every march was a negotiation between what the army needed the body to do and what the body could do. For most marches, across most of 25 years, the negotiation produced the result the army required. The body held. The column kept pace. The formation arrived at its objective, functional, and the camp was built, and the fires were lit, and the body was given the night to recover enough to do it again. But the negotiation was not always settled in the army's favor. Bodies had limits. The limits were not the same for every soldier on every day and every condition. The heat that was manageable on a dry day was not manageable on the march through the Syrian summer. The cold that was endurable on a short march was not endurable on 3 days in the German winter. The blister that was ignorable at mile 5 was not ignorable at mile 20. And Rome had decided that the gap between the body's limits and the army's requirements was the soldier's problem. Not Rome's problem, not the column's problem, the soldier's problem to be resolved through the reserve that training had built and fear had reinforced, and the vine staff and the flagrum had established as non-negotiable. You found the reserve. Most of the time you found the reserve. The times you didn't, Rome had a response for that too. It just wasn't a response that asked why, if this is the Rome that keeps you watching, not the eagles on the monuments, but the truth of what the machine required from the men inside it and what it did when they couldn't deliver. Hit that like button and subscribe to Legacy of Rome. Tuesday, Friday, Sunday, every week we go back into the real cost of wearing Roman armor. Subscribe and we'll keep making it.